Hello there and welcome to the stream. I'm ready to kick things off. Looks like I already have some people waiting. So yeah, we are going to be playing Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 today. I'm going to be talking about this game's history, where it stands with the MCU, the comic universe, the video games, and all that really good stuff. So kicking off right now. Now I'm going to be starting from the beginning. I'm going to be playing up until a certain point. Have played through this game before in the past, so I know what's going to happen. So just going to kick things off with a new game here. Selecting the Mighty difficulty, which is the game's version of normal. Alright, and here we go. So, as you can see, the game kicks things off with, lo and behold, the Guardians. What's up, team?
That's another planet we'll never be able to visit again, because you tried to steal the most priceless artifact. How was I supposed to know that thing was so important to her?
And I just love how they really just get right into the banter, the thing that has defined this team in the MCU. Now, this series itself, it started off with X-Men Legends back in 2004 and really played more on the comic book continuity than anything else, although they did have Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier, so that was a cool little touch. And X-Men Legends was a great game, and it continued with X-Men Legends 2, then branched out into Marvel Ultimate Alliance, which allowed everyone in the Marvel Universe to team up and play Diablo or Gauntlet style action platformer game. Action platformer, what am I talking about? An action game. So, and if you play Gauntlet or Diablo, then you know the type of style. You're getting top down, fighting tons of enemies, dungeons plunking, that sort of thing. A nice diss on Star-Lord's music there. Okay, so basically, yeah, the game's main appeal was that it was very comic book lore heavy. Even lets you do a fastball special with Wolverine and Colossus, which is, hey, that's some love right there for the comic book fans like myself. So, the series continued up until 2009. Iron Man, the movie, came out in 2008. In 2009 was when Marvel decided, hey, let's make a cinematic universe and focus everything we have on that, since the comics aren't profiting the way they used to. And that's when the series grounded to a halt, even though it was making some serious bank on next generation platforms. So, as everyone here knows, the MCU ended back in 2019, which is when this game released. And it seems they made a few caveats. Number one, be a little bit more MCU friendly, of course, by kicking things off with the Guardians and trying to blend the comic looks with the MCU looks, and you're going to be seeing a little bit more of that in a little bit coming up when we get to Earth. So, yeah, so the game's about to start proper. Basically, sorry for talking over, but yeah, basically the Guardians have detected a huge energy signature that they want to go check out for money.
Seriously? No welcoming committee? Scans were right. We've got ourselves a ghost ship.
Why would the crew abandon a vessel of this caliber?
I have a terrible feeling we are about to find out.
But one of the really cool things about the series is that even though, of course, they had to be MCU friendly, they're still keeping the comic book lore intact. We're in a cruise ship right now, and they haven't exactly been big in the MCU, and that's something I really do appreciate, that even though to get this game made, they obviously had to say, okay, yeah, we'll cater to the MCU people. They're still gonna keep it comic book focused. And you're going to be seeing a lot more comic book style characterizations which are going to contrast with what we saw in the MCU, but I actually prefer that, being a comic book fanboy first.
We better get this junk out of the way.
Okay, enough of the geek stuff. So basically gameplay. So right now I'm playing the Star-Lord, but we can switch over to any team on the D-pad. Any team member, I should say. Star-Lord is basically, keeping the gauntlet comparisons. He's the elf. He's fast, he's speedy, he strikes from a distance. He's got pretty low attack power. Gamora, she's the Valkyrie. Better attack power, average stats overall, faster, and fights with a sword. Now we have Groot and Rocket. I'd say he's the mage. Heavy range, but can also hit a lot harder with his melee attacks. And now we have Drax. He is, of course, the barbarian of the group. Heavy melee, low speed, good defense. And you'll be seeing a mix and match of these varieties as the game goes on with all the characters. You got the energy users, you got the physical attackers, you got people who can fly, like Star-Lord here. It's a good... They basically found a lot of really imaginative ways over the years to apply those archetypes to the Marvel Universe and keep it friendly to the fans.
Everyone, take cover!
And another thing I really have to say that I appreciate about this game is that the tutorial level is mercifully short and doesn't assume you're an idiot. And I love how the game just spells it out for you. You want to have an easier time with this segment? Pick the guy who can fly. I think that should be I Am Groot, but anyways.
Hold your fire.
Hey there, Nebula. How you
For
doing?
now. You certainly weren't who we were expecting. But we will be more
Gotta love the Kill Bill little style captions there. That's really a cool little touch. Alright, so getting right into it here.
Your presence here may have exposed us all. For that, you must pay.
Things ain't going down easy.
So this is a fun little fight against some drones, and of course Nebula being something of a mid-boss right now. So gonna use some of the special attacks here. The Star-Lord, he fires off a hurricane. I'm not quite sure where that comes from, but still a cool little attack. If you can get the enemies bunched up together, it does really good crowd damage. Let's go on over to Groot. Love Rocket tossing around the grenades, just basically serious crowd control move there.
Seen Guardians.
Alright, Drax, you're up. Show them what you can do. Love Drax with those knives. Nice little nod to the MCU there. And I've never been a Guardians comic book reader, so I don't know if that's his style in the books, but... And Gamora. Alright. So yeah, as you can see, bosses and tougher enemies don't stagger under your attacks. You gotta lower their stagger gauge, which is that little purple thing there. And then you can do some good damage. And your allies do have pretty good AI.
The blood of every being in this universe will be on your hands, Guardians. So I will gladly have your blood unbought.
Alright, now we're getting over to X attacks. And
Had to come to this.
left and right button. And basically they're your super moves, which are really, really fun to pull off. Alright, Groot. Yes, you are.
Thanos raised us to hate each other then, but it doesn't have to be that way anymore.
Thanos didn't teach me nothing, and I still hate this lady.
Alright, Star-Lord,
Loser.
your turn. Alright, and let's let Drax end this.
Idiots. Your stupidity may have doomed the universe.
Wouldn't be the first time, sweetheart.
And despite not getting the same writers or actors, they really did a great job in keeping the Guardians themselves. So that's really appreciated since the Guardians films were the most uniformly excellent, despite James Gunn, well, you know.
It must be very important if Nebula is involved.
But if their trap was not meant for us, then who was it for?
Anyone else kind of hope we never have to find out?
Oh, you're definitely going to find out, Rocket. So yeah, like I mentioned, this game does a really good job mixing up the traditional Gauntlet or Diablo roles. And you'll see what I mean once we get a bit more people in the party here, but as you can see, Drax doesn't need special moves. He can just take these clowns down with a single combo. And we should be coming up on some of the tank enemies now, which is one of my chief complaints about this game. But I'll get to that in a moment. Again, just gotta say the AI in this game is fantastic. If you're not, here we go, tank enemy. Like I was mentioning, I really don't like these guys because they're basically mid-bosses, whereas they don't stagger until you break the stagger bar, unlike regular enemies. And when they get mixed in, and if they're hard to tell them apart from the regular drones, they can really do a number on you with your combos and just break up the flow of the game. But still, I would like to get the complaints out of the way first. But let me just have it clear. I love this series, and this game is a very worthy successor. The interesting thing is, it was developed by Temco Koei, the same people who make, well, mostly known for the Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors series. Whereas the previous games were made by Raven Software. So, interesting that a different team still did very, very right by the series. And here we go. Yeah, see, yeah, those tank enemies, they're a little too overpowered. I'm surprised they haven't been nerfed in updates, but So one thing I should also mention is that there's, like any good Diablo-style game, there's always collectibles and secret items to find, and one thing I've never done with a playthrough is make it a point to hunt them all down, and I really should. Because even in the intro level, there's a few secrets that I just haven't had a chance to really track down and make it a point to find.
You have proven far more resourceful than I would have imagined.
Hey there, Ronan. How you doing?
But the time
I'm
has
surprised there's no dance-off with this guy.
final judgment.
So yeah, this game does make it a point to be very friendly to the MCU people coming into this before it starts bringing in all the comic book exclusive characters, and that's going to be coming up in a few minutes.
The Kree were trying to save all Terran and space from being ripped asunder. But you God intend to barge in and expose us all to those who will ultimately bring our destruction.
Not to say. Totally does sound like something. Oh, watch out for that one. Couldn't even block it. Eat elemental energy, loser.
Okay. So, and another thing to mention, so there's two different phases to this boss fight. You're going to see the two life bars up there on Ronan. As soon as that first bar goes down, he's going to come up with a whole new different moveset. So I'm going to switch on over to Brutes.
It's too late. The Kree sacrificed thousands of brave souls to gather the only artifacts capable of holding off the forces of oblivion. And this, it seems,
Okay, so Groot just went down, but I can revive him.
is our misunderstanding.
If we could stop fighting for just a minute, we might be able to find a way to fix this.
The damage is already done. Our location has been discovered. There is only enough time.
And like I mentioned, Ronan is coming up with a whole new different moveset now that that first life bar is down,
Fight them.
He's clearly a team player, loser.
making the X moves. Making the X moves all the more important. Okay. Okay, Groot. Yes, you are.
They have arrived.
They? Who is they? What is this all about, Ronan?
And like you had any doubt who the main villain was going to be here,
This is about the end of all that is, and we are the ones who shall deliver it. Once you have returned to us what is ours, Kree dog.
Never. That madman you obey only wishes to destroy.
The time has come to
and of course, like I said, as if you had any doubt what the main point of this game was going to be and
All six. Rocket? Rocket?
who the end villain is going to be.
So, here's the way I see it. I know you said these stones belong to your master, whoever that is. But
Yeah, who do you think?
we got here first. So how's about you take three, we take three, and we call it a hey!
You will leave here with nothing, not even your lives.
Ooh. Yeah, these games have never shied away from showing showing some more severe levels of violence, unlike the Marvel films that seemed to always candy coat things. So I really appreciate that.
We weren't trying to hurt you, just to distract you.
Distract?
And yeah, I really do appreciate how well the writers in these games get characters.
Did she say Thanos?
She said Thanos. Come on. Was there any doubt?
Quill, you can't let her have them!
Lovely, very MCU swell of music. And that is the intro level. We're going to keep going a little bit more here because I really do want to get to a certain part just to really give you an idea of
Oh, great.
what the game's all about once
Oh, I thought we were dead.
once it opens up.
We aren't dead, are we?
No, you're not dead.
I felt death. This is slightly less pleasant.
Ouch.
We're alive, but we could be anywhere in space or time. The Infinity Stones are not playthings.
Hey, I did exactly what you said. I saved the items of insane cosmic power from the Psycho Space Lady.
I'm Groot.
You can? And you just sat there listening to us jabber? Do it already! Oh, great. We saved the universe from disaster, but we're the ones that end up in prison?
Yep.
Yup, that sounds about right.
Why were we transported to this place, Quill?
I don't know. I just grabbed the stone and thought us somewhere safe. Yeah, but something tells me we'd be a lot safer on the other side of that flocking hill.
The wall is structurally unsound. Perhaps.
Okay. So you have to use a certain kind of attack to break out of there. ZR plus Y. Okay, you had to use a certain combination. All right.
Looks like we just made bail, Guardians.
So yeah, that's another thing I was going to mention. In Ultimate Alliance 2, you had combo attacks, and you still do. They're just certain combination presses or certain characters that have to be near you to pull them off. But they're really awesome to do. And that was one of the main selling points of the second game.
We can break out of this hole. We've got to repair this terminal if we want to restore power to this dump.
can we finally get
Now,
out of
if
here?
you know the comic book universe, you know absolutely for certain where they are right now.
What did I tell you? You need cell doors disarmed and open? I'm your guy.
Yes. And because you did that, and the comic book fans saw this coming, you just caused a supervillain jailbreak. Love it.
Been to more prisons in more galaxies than I can count. This? This is new.
Another really cool thing, certain characters have different control mechanics, like Rocket has rapid fire, but Star-Lord does not.
To make me feel right at home.
Any notion of where in the universe we are?
No idea. But the other prisoners look strangely human-ish.
I am Groot.
I hear you, buddy. This sure brings back some memories, don't it?
Yeah, so basically I'm going to spoil things here. They're on the raft, which did make an appearance in Civil War. It's the supervillain prison. Hey, Webhead, how you doing?
Supervillains to the raft is usually a lot of boring paperwork. But this... it's a total riot.
Thank you, video game writers, for making Spider-Man like his comic book self.
Smile from the tree?
Yeah, basically that is my chief complaint about Spider-Man for so long, is that he's just been, the movies either make him too serious, not serious enough, or Iron Man's errand boy. So, and that's why it's so refreshing to see a video game here get him right. Where he's heroic, he's his own man, but he's the team clown.
Worst criminals our planet has to offer. Which makes me wonder, what are you guys doing in there? It's a long story.
Okay. Yeah, like I was mentioning, these tank enemies can be a little OP. That's overpowered. At least until you stagger them, and then they go down excuse me, glass houses. Or, sorry, a house of cards. Talking about gaming is hard, isn't it? And one thing I haven't noted before, but I'm noticing now while I'm just describing this game while playing it, Tempo Koi really did apply some of the Dynasty Warriors formula here by putting in so many enemies into the crowd, which I appreciate as I'm a fan of that series, and if you haven't played it, you really should give it a try.
Then let's stick together and get out of here. Preferably before they wake up. This way. And don't forget to close the door behind us.
And Groot, aka Rocket, is my favorite amongst the Guardians to play as, just for the rapid fire.
Definitely not right here. You don't know the half of it.
That is way more fun than it should be.
Finally, some fresh air. Those cells smell worse than Rocket's bunk.
Okay, here it goes and a boss fight, and after this, the game is going to open up a bit more, and that's where we'll end off a bit.
You put me here. You buried me in a dark cell for life. Now I'm gonna bury you. Dead or alive.
Hello, Sandman. And so, okay, so one thing I just had to say is that basically the game breaks in new players by making it very MCU friendly, but from here on out, it's for the comic book fans. You got villains that didn't make it into the MCU, like Sandman. And yes, I know he was in Spider-Man 3, but this is far more his comic book self. So yeah, from after the introduction level and easing the new people in, it's 100% pure comic book fan service, and I absolutely appreciate it. So yeah, basically we're shooting what I think is cement into Sandman to solid him up, and then we just go to town on him. Ooh. Team up X attack. That's awesome. And I love that Sandman is taking pot shots at me while we're clearing up the rubble here. And yeah, you gotta dodge his shots he's taking at you while you're going to town on him. Okay, Gamora. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of where you are when things get nuts like they are now. Okay, let me move on over to someone that isn't completely out of energy. Okay, yeah, I forgot about that move. Yeah, see what I was talking about these tank enemies? They take way too much time, too much damage. They're less like cannon fodder and more like actual mid-bosses. So this should be the home stretch with this guy. Alright, here we go. Alright, everybody all together. Oh, I miss that Spider-Man so much.
Deadliest foes. And they're all either trying to break free or to break us. While that force field is engaged, they can't get out.
You see, this is what the MCU got so wrong. Spider-Man is a leader. It's his responsibility. He takes charge in situations like this. How you doing, Nick? Oh, yeah, you. How you doing, Locha?
A teleporting dog? Is this some kind of joke?
You know, I was just about to ask the same thing about the raccoon with the laser gun.
It's a quantum igniter, thank you very much. And it can blast you right out of that tin can before...
Measure your weapons later, boy. If we want to survive this, we do it as a team.
Thank you for this video game. Thank you for making Spider-Man his awesome self. I just want to say that to the creators. And this is where the game really opens up and where we're going to leave things. Just after I demonstrate putting the team together, you just go away. Yeah, like I was saying, this is all about the comic book fan service from this point onward. Everyone is their comic book selves, including you. And of course, you're going to get people that a lot of the MCU fans are not going to know, like Crystal. How you doing?
He's an Inhuman, just like me. And with the help of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s tracking tech, he should be able to hone in on hotspots and swap out our team members when things get rough. Isn't that right, good boy? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you just the goodest little boy, aren't you?
Why are we talking when we could be smashing? Hulk knows. Hulk isn't just the strongest one there is. This is an official ship, which is probably why we're in this mess in the first place. Unless, of course, your sudden arrival has absolutely nothing to do with the 6 Infinity Stone-sized bursts of cosmic energy. Figures. Just consider yourself lucky that I've got a team of heroes on speed dial for missions of Universal. We had some help from Crystal's canine companion, Lockjaw, and those powers of his should come in handy if we need to call in more backup. With the stones in play, that's... The raft is just the stuff. We track the strongest readings here, but the other, if they're on Earth again, you can bet Thanos won't be far behind. We can't let him... Darn right, so I'll be coordinating our efforts over Comlink until the raft is secure. You got a problem with that? I won't hesitate to throw you into one of these sacks. So let's move.
Now, unfortunately, we don't get to play as Nick. That would be so awesome.
Stop at one of these when you need assistance.
And of course, people who played the series for a long time will note that this is the Samuel Jackson Nick Fury and not classic Nick Fury that was in the last few games. But hey, you know, it's something I can let go of. Nick Fury is Nick Fury.
Well, I'm certainly glad to have the extra heads. Of all the planets in the universe, for some reason.
Yeah, Space Karen is in here. Try not to hold that whole Brie Larson thing against her, but yeah, she's never been on the team.
Just my luck. I came here to drop off the lizard, but now I'm the one whose tail's getting. It's a maximum security prison designed specifically for superpowered villains. Not exactly the place a friendly neighborhood hero like.
Okay, so let's get the team together. So yeah, you can pretty much, so yeah, this is basically where the game truly shines. You can,
I'll give you a second to change your mind.
yeah, there was never a chance I was not going to pick Deadpool, by the way.
You are the best. You got it.
Steve Blum is Wolverine. Good to see him coming back. And that's another thing I wanted to touch on about this game. It brings together a lot of classic voice actors. I think Mark Hamill is back voicing Green Goblin. At least I think it's always been Mark Hamill that's been voicing him. I could be wrong there.
Let's swing into action.
And yeah, I'm going to go with Crystal. Yeah, simply because I'm a bit of a fan of the Fantastic Four and I've always liked her powers, so. But yeah, you can. And the thing is that if you get heroes from a certain team together, if you were to pair the Avengers up, you get bonuses specific to them. X-Men, you get bonuses specific to them. Fantastic Four, the Defenders, what have you. Bonuses specific to them.
No telling the damage that maniac can do if he gains access to the RACCOON security systems. Shield scanners are going wild. You must be close to something.
And yeah, these are all the comic book costumes, and like I said, it's really back to the comic book universe now that the introduction is over and the MCU fans are hooked. So this is really where I'm going to drop off just as soon as I get... It would have been awesome if we got Ryan Reynolds doing Deadpool in this game. And yeah, Spider-Man can web sling around, which is flippin' awesome. The webs cause enemies to stick to the floor, which is a really good effect if you're getting crowded in a fight. And Crystal is just your energy slinger, which is nice to have. Oh yeah, and I forgot about that.
That does not look like it is supposed to be there.
Whatever that.
Infinity Rifts. So these are basically bonus levels. So yeah, I'm going to take on this fight with my team and then just end off with a few final comments about the overall roster. Yeah, loading times can be a bit long in this game, but
You got nothing on him.
yeah, and one thing I forgot about this series, that some enemies are immune to energy and some enemies are immune to physical attacks. So you do got to pick your team per level. And you can see Crystal ain't exactly doing much to these wounds with just her regular melee. let's move on over to Wolverine, aka the best there is. Getting some adamantium rage on there. Alright, and now for Deadpool. And a great thing about him is that he has his teleporter from the comics. Ooh. Okay, and Deadpool is out of energy, so he can't pull off any more special attacks. Okay, was trying to pull off a next move there, but couldn't make that happen.
Put up a better fight.
Rank C. So, and yeah, those are items you can use to power up your characters. And yeah, that is, so I'm going to end it off there, and that is Ultimate Alliance 3. So basically, should you play it? That really does depend. Are you a fan of the comic books? Are you a fan of the characters from the comics? Or because that's really where this game's fan service lies. Definitely not in the MCU. It just starts off with that to pull off the new people in, but its fan service lies, as with the rest of the series, in the comic book lore, in the style, in the characters, in the interactions, in the banter. So, are you a fan of the comics? If so, get this game. And go back and get Series 2 if you can. They're fantastic games and really, really just dedicated to fan service for fans of the Marvel Comics. If you're an MCU fan, you might be a little lost here and there. You might be a little alienated that Spider-Man is much more of an alpha male rather than the character he's been portrayed in the MCU. You might be a little lost as to who some characters are, like Ghost Rider, who shows up here. You might not like the fact that the costumes are comic book specific. And so, but that's the appeal they went, and I, for one, am really glad they did. Again, the game play itself is Marvel meets Gauntlet, but the game, excuse me. Okay, let me try to talk again. But the developers really did a good job of blending the styles and making the gameplay feel like you're playing a Marvel Universe game. Not the cinematic universe, but the comic book universe. So, yeah, if you're a fan of the comics, if you're a fan of these characters, I would say absolutely 1000% get this game. And it's solely for the Nintendo Switch. And the older games are for last-gen systems, Xbox 360 and PS3, and X-Men Legends 1 and 2 are for the PS2. If you're liking this style, definitely get on those older games. They're fantastic even by today's standards. And there's a lot of love and comic book lore in them, which if you wanted to get into the comics or if you are a fan of the comics, these are your games. So, and yes, you can absolutely do a fastball special in this game. So, and well, I'm going to sign off here. Thanks for joining. I'll be back on Friday or this weekend with new Pokemon Snap. Thanks so much, everyone. You take care.